One of the biggest pieces of crypto is the DeFi market. This was one of the largest things back in like the summer of 2020 as well. I mean, we all know the name of the summer of 2020, aka DeFi summer. It is still notorious even today because of how big it actually was for the space. And even today, DeFi still holding TVL above 100 and almost $15 billion. It did hit an all-time high back in 2021, of course, sitting at about roughly $177 billion. I suspect that we do hit a higher high very soon, aka an all-time high on this chart yet again. And what's crazy about this is a lot of people still overlook some of these great networks like the XRP Ledger, for an example, that were one of the first DeFi giants, actually. The XRP Ledger was one of the first ones to have a DEX built into it. And even today, the XRP Ledger continues to make a lot of noise around DeFi, and it's starting to become a very, very big deal. So let's actually dive on into this, and let's actually talk about this one first from Crypto Airy. So we have quick 3 snapshots. So XRP total value locked on Doppler Phi is now over 7 million with a combined TVL of 16.9 million. Flare Networks is continuing to rocket in TVL, up another 10% on the 24-hour at $142 million. XRP is still to come. XRP Ledger DEX, $37 million in terms of XRP locked. We should see about a dozen plus negative, like plus or less, new DeFi protocols live focused on XRP beginning to roll out this month and continuing through early summer. Now, here are some of the images. We have the first one, Doppler Finance, 16.91 million. We also have Flare, 142.6 million, and then the XRP Ledger DEX, 37.68 million. So let's actually look at this. Number one, the DEX itself, the XRP Ledger DEX, it surged. It just recently surged. We're at 80.63 million compared to the, let's go back over here, compared to the 37.68 million that was tied to this image, which was just on the 7th, which is crazy. In terms of the actual XRP ledger itself, over 80.63 million. We also have 24.2 million on Doppler Phi, which Doppler Phi was at 16.91 million. So the overall growth here is definitely very, very exciting to watch. And in terms of the DEX volume, we're starting to see, some nice all-time highs on this in terms of the weekly, which again is also very beneficial to really see on the network, because this means that we're starting to see a lot of adoption around the DeFi side for the XRP Ledger. And we could also see the DEX's volume 24 hours. We had one of the biggest spikes on May 7th, about $605,000. You might say, well, that's nothing for a network the size of the XRP Ledger. It is actually a very, very big milestone because of how much or how many protocols are tied to the XRP Ledger, which is only at this current point 6. I do suspect that we will start to see a lot more, but it's definitely a good start. Now, on top of this, we go over here to this CoinDesk article, which was exclusive into the block, and Trident Digital merged to launch Centaura, a DeFi gateway for institutions. Backers include New Form Capital, Ripple, and Tribe Capital. This is a very big DeFi gateway for the XRP Ledger through Ripple, with, of course, some pretty big players tied to this. We love to see this. And again, institutional DeFi becoming a very, very big thing to focus on. And it is being enabled on the XRP Ledger in a big way. Talking more so about that, let's actually dive on into exactly how that's being enabled. Number one, through acquisitions like Hidden Road. We even know in terms of the acquisition on Hidden Road, they did mention that together Ripple and Hidden Road are bringing the promise of digital assets to institutional customers at scale, bridging traditional finance and decentralized finance in ways never seen before. And this is all through the XRP-L and also XRP, which we love to see. On top of that, we also have over here, breaking, Raoul Pal explains DeFi launching on the XRP Ledger. If you're starting to build more application like DeFi on top, you're only going to build value in Metcalfe law terms, which is network value. And yes, this is something that I'm very consistent with when I talk about DeFi, even on Hedera. A lot of people think that, oh, it doesn't really matter around DeFi at all. Well, if you actually look at this, you could see that the DEX volume kind of aligns with us being pretty solid on price action. Yeah, we're dipping, but for the most part, ever since we started to see the market really kind of wake up, we've been starting to see the price correlate even with DeFi and also ecosystem growth, which we love to see on the XRPL. Let's go back to that video and let's actually see Raoul Pal explain exactly why DeFi on these networks like the XRP Ledger are so crucial to focus on.
So it has launched, XRP DeFi. So what are your thoughts on this? Any implications as to how XRP does in the market overall? Do we still see upside here for XRP?
The more that's built on top of XRP. So XRP is in an exalted situation because there's a lot of holders. But the activity was, A, under pressure because of under lawsuits.
Yep.
And B, a lot of it was the potential of how much can we use for stuff. And there is a reasonable amount of use of the XRP ledger. But if you're starting to build new applications like DeFi on top, you're only going to build value in Metcalfe's law terms, which is network value. So it can only be a net positive if people start to use it, because there's a lot of users, there's not enough things they can do with their XRP. So we've had some memes on XRP, that was a use case, more DeFi on XRP, more use case. Then you've got something much bigger than the original thing. So, for me, all blockchains about proving yourself and proving network value by building value. And if they can do that, good for them.
And he is 100% correct here, right? Like there's a ton of XRP holders out there that want to actually put their XRP to work. So if you actually have DeFi applications, you're going to start to see a tremendous amount of XRP on the move, which is going to create volume, which is going to equate to value, which is going to, of course, cause XRP, the underlying gas token, to, also surge in, value, which we love to see. Now, talking more so about that, we go over here to Jazzy Cooper, because back in March, she did post this article, which was Institutional DeFi Portal. And remember, she is product at Ripple. She put here, bringing finance on chain is still way too hard. It's complex, full of jargon, and scattered. We're building something better use cases, or clear use cases, seamless onboarding, everything in one place. If you're building or exploring, we'd love your input. And if I actually look at this Institutional DeFi Portal, in development, a platform to help financial institutions bring their businesses on chain, powered by XRP and the XRPL. Discover blockchain use cases that deliver value to your business. Tokenize assets. Enable XRP deposits. Allow XRP trading. This is absolutely crazy, because this is promoting the use of XRP and the XRPL throughout the entire life cycle. This is through tokenization initiatives. This is through pretty much any DeFi initiatives from an institutional perspective, which shows us that Ripple is 100% serious and committed to making sure that the XRPL is one of the most successful DeFi networks in this space. I am very, very excited about this. Now, on top of that, we have over here from vet_x0. Now, this goes back quite a bit of time, but I want to bring this back up because of the focus on multi-purpose tokens. We have here, initial hostility towards Ripple and their institutional approach is now a trend. Institutional and regulated assets powering the whole crypto and DeFi ecosystem already, Circle, Tether with their stablecoins. Looking at the XRP Ledger DeFi roadmap, we have seen yesterday with a clear emphasis on institutions with all the necessary technical amendments coming, AMM, decentralized identifier, oracles, MPTs, lending and borrowing as well. In other words, if we think the existing stablecoins, which are institutional and regulated, this whole flourishing crypto ecosystem, what if we add more significant institutional assets and services? Check this out.
The company was late 2012.
Okay, so around that time frame, there was some initial hostility that we've talked about before towards Ripple and its sort of institution-centric approach. And it does feel like things have changed. I mean, we're talking a lot about regulation. We're talking about ETFs from Blackstone, BlackRock, and and all of these different entities. What does it feel like, from your seat? Do you feel like people have kind of evolved to the Ripple worldview, or it must feel different for you, given all of that criticism you got initially?
Yeah, I think the undeniable piece of proof is stablecoins like USDC and Tether. They are as institutional a thing as you can possibly get, and yet they are what's fueling these completely decentralized economies. I think you can't deny right now that the institutional adoption is going to enable grassroots adoption and vice versa. I think the thing that we were too early on is when we were trying to bring institutions on for their payments, they weren't going to bring their customers to blockchains, right? Like if your bank is using, let's say they're using Ripple's payment technology and they're using blockchains and they're using XRP in payments. You as a customer, it's invisible to you. They're not going to bring you into the blockchain space. Yeah. What's exciting about this second wave of sort of institutional adoption is that they're either bringing their customers directly onto the blockchain or they're enabling people to do things on the blockchain.
Sure.
I think you have to accept that, like, if there's going to be mass adoption, it's going to be these sort of hand in hand.
Yeah.
The thing that I think people were skeptical about, that I think now the evidence is undeniable, is that wouldn't mean that everything would have to be regulated. I think the thing that people didn't realize is that, like, you can have a stable coin or a loan portfolio or a tokenized security that's completely thoroughly regulated. They do KYC, AML on every single customer. And yet on the back end, there's tokens that represent ownership interest or collateralization against that are completely decentralized. So, that's like, we see that now.
On that note,
now, to build upon this, all of this is made possible through, MPTs. The MPT initiative is so crucial for all of this, and that's getting very close to getting pushed through. But on top of this, right, we know the XRP ledger is undergoing a shift as the XRP ledger EVM sidechain opens new DeFi opportunities, ensures the XRP asset can be used productively, supports institutional RWAs, and could the XRP ledger become the biggest chain for RWA tokenization? Check this out.
The one thing I'm most excited about happening on XRPL is finally opening up DeFi opportunities for XRP, right? Again, it's the biggest asset with one of the biggest communities that doesn't have DeFi, right? And being able to use this asset productively in DeFi, I think it's going to be a big thing. And then XRPL, Ripple obviously has a very unique edge when it comes to RWAs. And with Axelar, we're working with most of the RWA issuers as well. So it's not something we've done a deep dive yet with your team, but it's something we're prioritizing now and just bringing new RWAs over to XRPL. And I think you guys have a big edge there, and we can make it probably the biggest chain, right, for RWA adoption. So I think there's some interesting directions there. The one thing I'm most...
Now, this could definitely be a possibility, especially with all the amendments, with all of the major expansions that are happening. I do think that XRP is going to make history. I think that we're getting very close to XRP making a lot of history around tokenization initiatives. All it really takes is one big announcement, and I do think that there's something brewing behind all of these recent moves from Ripple. So we definitely have to watch forward to see what happens. But overall, we're starting to see some pretty large moves happening from the DeFi side to the tokenization side, and I couldn't be more excited to see what the future has in store for XRP and the XRPL. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.